The Morning Majority with Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, and Brian Neiman on 630. WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. Good Wednesday morning to you. Still coming up on the show this morning, Christopher Horner will join us, senior fellow at CEI. We'll get into the controversial nomination for Commerce Secretary from President Obama. Tomorrow on the show, Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli in the house.
That'll be good.
For 2 hours, he's going to sit in, so we'll have some fun with that. We'll get into the latest on the healthcare issue, see where he's going in the courts with that, and much, much more with Ken Cuccinelli for 2 hours. Lanny Davis will be here tomorrow. Stuart Varney from the Fox Business Channel as well on the economy. Pleased to be joined now by Daniel Bongino, who is a former Secret Service agent who is going to be running for the Senate seat in Maryland against Ben Cardin as a Republican.
That's right.
Thanks for coming in.
Good to have you here this morning.
Are you crazy to run as a Republican in Maryland, or am I just wrong in thinking that a Republican can never win in the state of Maryland?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. We can win in Maryland. Maryland, the idea's won a long time ago, actually. We just haven't had the right messenger. The message, what Reagan won Maryland. People want their own money. They want to make their own decisions. I don't think anyone actually believes, if you ask them, that government's so efficient at spending their money that they've somehow done it better than they could have done. That idea is a winner in Maryland. Conservative ideas have already won. We just need the right messenger, and I really think I can get out there and start to sway people.
Why did you? I mean, you left. I mean, you were a Secret Service agent. It's a pretty prestigious job. Why did you decide you wanted to get out of that and actually run for office?
You know, it was a tough call. 12 years in the Secret Service. It's half my career. I could have retired in another 13. Lifetime of benefits and security. It was a tough decision. Me and my family had to sit down. We took a couple weeks after I left to think about it. We didn't decide right away. It was tough. It was a big risk. But you can't sit on the sidelines, really. And I find I used to go to a lot of Republican meetings, and I would sit in the back and I would listen. And there's a lot of chatter and a lot of talk, and this is not to disparage anybody, but sooner or later you really have to get in the fight. I mean, we didn't do anything wrong. Government promised us things. We went to work. We paid our taxes. They promised us education, health care, the economy would be okay. Just get out of the way and let us do it. So it's time to get in the fight.
Now, you are of course, retired from the Secret Service. You are a citizen. You have all the rights there afforded thereof. So there was no problem with you going from your job at the Secret Service into a world of politics. But one reads occasionally that the Secret Service sort of frowns on this thing. Have you caught any guff from the Secret Service over this?
No, they've been great. I haven't had any problems with the Secret Service. I left on very good terms. It was a really fantastic 12-year career. I think it's a great job. I have nothing negative to say at all. It was a very positive experience. It was fantastic. 27 countries. You're in the White House. It's a fantastic experience.
And you were saying before we came on here that you disagree with his politics, but you really genuinely like President Obama.
He was a wonderful man. Him and his family treated us with dignity and respect. He's been fantastic to me the entire time. I have nothing negative to say, but policy issues are policy issues.
How do you win in Maryland? I mean, give me the strategy. Just talk strategery here. How do you win? Because it's an overwhelmingly Democratic state. Few Republicans have been able to win statewide.
Sure. That's right. The numbers are the numbers. You're right. That's an accurate
So where do
statement.
you have to win, and where do you have to break even?
Well, we keep losing the game in the locker room. You know, me and Brian Murphy, my good friend, who ran for governor in Maryland here, we talk about this all the time. We lose the game in the locker room. We don't even get on the playing field. Montgomery County, we can't win there. Baltimore, we can't win there. Prince George's County, we can't win there. Really? How is that? Are these parents any less concerned about these economic prisons we call schools, about the crime rate? Well, I was a police officer in New York City for 2 years. I worked for the NYPD for 5. And I remember working in the 7-5 precinct. We had T-shirts made up that said, "You give us 10 minutes, we'll give you a homicide." I can tell you, people would tap us on the shoulder, the citizens, and you'd hear, "Oh, they don't care here." Trust me, they cared. They would tap you on the shoulder and say, "I can't say anything publicly, but that guy on the corner is selling drugs." These people care about their kids as well, but we're not fighting the fight there. We're just already forfeiting the vote. That's why we can't win.
So you decided to jump in and get after it.
Let's do it. Why not?
Well, I think it'll be interesting, for one, to watch Democrats try and attack a guy as only running because he hates Obama when he protected Obama. So that'll be interesting. Number two, I wonder, we were talking about how you have to peel off votes in Montgomery County. Obviously, public employee unions a huge issue there, having huge budget impact. Have you been able to make inroads with that message as a conservative?
Well, I was a government employee. I wasn't a member of a union. I was a Secret Service agent. We were paid very generously. Right. We didn't need a union to fire. And I'm not disparaging unions at all, but I don't like monopolies. Why are we allowing unions to coerce people into joining? You should, if a union's doing such a great job, you should be able to join. I think Tim Scott, the rep, one of the new Tea Party reps, had just proposed some legislation to make it not mandatory anymore. The federal employees join the union. Well, I don't understand what's so objective. Why does every policy on the left involve some degree of coercion? You have to join the healthcare program. You have to join a union. Unions some of them are wonderful. The PBA, which represented the New York City Police Department when I was there, they did a wonderful job. But I was never a member of the union in the Secret Service, and we didn't need it. We were paid very generously. We were treated fantastically. So that should be the union, the whole union vote. I think that message will win, that they don't need to join the union. And if you go in there and speak plainly, I think those middle-class union workers will hear your message. We just can't afford it anymore. We can't afford a wage that's not the market-clearing wage. We can't.
We're talking with Dan Bongino, who is running for Senate in the state of Maryland as a Republican. He's a former Secret Service agent. You worked in New York City as a police officer. Tell us a little bit more about your background, where you're from, what you're all about.
I was a police officer in New York City. I worked for the police department for 5 years. I was in a cadet program. It was like an internship kind of program where we used to design pattern databases to detect serial criminals. It was pretty interesting. And I was a police officer for 2. I joined the Secret Service in '99. I worked in a New York field office, and I was transferred to Maryland in 2002. I love Maryland. I was given a number of opportunities to leave. I never took them. Matter of fact, the one assignment I did volunteer for was an overseas one that would have transferred me right back to Maryland. I live in Severna Park with great schools, great people. And the nice thing about Maryland is, I wrote on my website, you can't choose where you were born, but you can choose where you can live.
Right.
I'm not leaving. I'm never leaving. I have family in Oklahoma and New York. I rarely go back anymore. But it's a really nice blend of transplants and Maryland natives. It's not like saying, like my sister lives in Oklahoma, the overwhelming majority of people were born there and stayed there. Maryland's not like that. You have people who are native, you have people who moved there and stayed, so I love it. And I resigned in May, and I took that 2 weeks to think about it, and now we moved on.
Well, let's get into some specifics on how you would vote. I'm raising the debt ceiling, for instance. Would you raise the debt ceiling in exchange for cuts, or are you one of those people who would say, hey, we're not going to raise it at all?
I would not raise the debt ceiling without a hard cap on annual deficits based on a percentage of GDP. Now, I will say this, though, and I said this with the Baltimore Sun yesterday. It's almost a false argument. It's a false argument. The debt ceiling's irrelevant. It's like a family. Think about this. It's like a family that says, we think our credit limit should be $15,000. Yeah, but the credit card company said it should be $10,000. No, but we think we should be able to spend $15,000. Well, that's wonderful what you think you should spend. The bond market is ultimately going to decide when they stop lending us money. It's going to happen. It happened in Argentina. It's happened in a number of countries around the world. It happened in Russia. Look, when Russia had a default. I mean, we're making this argument as if we have the choice.
But we could raise the debt ceiling, and the bond market may not tank, though.
It may not tank,
and it most likely won't. But I guess your point is that it's possible it still could.
It may not. I mean, there were doomsday predictions about even. We lost the vote. We won the vote last night. 97 Democrats voted for it as a clean bill, and I use that term loosely, a clean bill. What are we going to do? Just arbitrarily keep? Why not raise it to $20 trillion? I mean, why is it a ceiling? If you can't touch it, is no ceiling? Is it an artificial ceiling? It's really a bogus argument. The bond market is ultimately going to stop lending us money at some point.
All right, we're talking with Dan Bongino, who is running for Senate in the state of Maryland as a Republican.